Okay. Great. So we can get started. And well, welcome to this information session. My name is Karl Winger. I'm a professor of electrical engineering here at UW, and I would be the teacher, the instructor for this course in the coming summer. Also with me is Corin, and I'll just let Corin introduce himself.
Hey, yeah, we can hop ahead here. Sorry, my name is Corin Shelley-Reese. I am a I'm an events and communication specialist with the Molecular Engineering Institute and the Clean Energy Institute at UW, and I work closely with Carl in his role as the director of the Nano Engineering Institute. And I think if we can just hop back a second, I think it's interesting for Carl to explain the photo on his intro slide.
Okay, yeah, I went a little bit too fast here. And yeah, Corin mentioned, and yeah, there are my titles here. So I'm in electrical and computer engineering. I'm also the director of the Nano Engineered Systems Institute. But what I'm doing here in this picture is actually something else. So this is from our last course that we offered. It's a few years ago. This course didn't happen during COVID. We tried to do it last year, but there were, I think, not enough people quite ready to travel yet. Hopefully this year it will be different. Looks like we have some interest. But what I'm doing here is actually I was up on, actually this is the highest peak in Switzerland, or actually in the Alps, that you can reach by tram. And obviously it's pretty high up, almost 4,000 meters, 13,000 feet or so, and there's a glacier, and actually they carved a little tunnel through the glacier that you can then slide down. So you get these little pillows, you sit on them and you slide down through the on this maybe a couple hundred yards or so. So that was one of the fun excursions that we did while we were in Switzerland. We did other things too. We did actually do some work as well, but I think part of it was just having fun also, and then learning a little bit more about the country. Okay, now we can go to the next slide.
Awesome. Yep. Nothing quite so fun to explain here. Just wanted to say that I love traveling. Just some photos about places that I've been. Picture of my dog, and we can keep jumping ahead. So I'll pass back to Carl here.
All right. Yeah, maybe an obvious question would be, why do you want to study abroad as an engineering student? And I think there are many good reasons to do that. I mean, for one, it's always, I think, interesting to just experience something different, to see a different country, different culture, and in particular in Switzerland, which has a very long history of engineering and very active high-tech community there. It's a great environment to study. Yeah, maybe your future employers will be interested in experiences abroad, and maybe also for you it's just interesting to meet other people and well, also be a little bit outside your comfort zone, even though I guess Switzerland is a pretty comfortable place, so not much to worry about there, but at least you'll probably be exposed to different people and live with them for about a month if you if you sign up for this course. I'm actually wondering, so since we have only 2 attendees here right now, maybe you could say a few words about yourself, if that's okay with you. I don't know, Anna, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm just turning my camera here. My name is Ana Garcia. I am a sophomore. I am in industrial and systems engineering. And why I would want to go abroad, I don't know. It just seems really interesting to me to go and experience different things, see other people's lives, cultures. But yeah.
Great. Yeah. Oops. And now it looks like we lost another one. That's too bad. I didn't want to scare away anybody. But I guess we're doing this just for Anna now. So thanks for participating here. So I guess we can move on to the next slide.
Okay.
And yeah, so why abroad? Why Switzerland? So well, it's a unique country, I think, in Europe, and it's a small, well, geographically very small place. It's landlocked in mostly in the Alps, but it actually has some lowlands too. There are about 8 million people, so is that comparable? Not much bigger than the population of Washington State. But there are actually 4 different languages officially spoken and lots of local dialects as well. I'm not sure whether you know all these languages, but German, French, and Italian are the obvious one. There's also another language called Romansh, which is only spoken in a few valleys. It's probably a language that's most closely related to Latin. We would be in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. Yeah, I already mentioned very high standard of living, a lot of interesting engineering work that's going on in Switzerland. And of course, maybe the most famous one is the watchmaking industry that is has really driven the high-tech industry in Switzerland. Right, moving on. So now I have been a professor at the University of Washington for more than 20 years, and for most of that time I have taught 215. That's a course that many students are taking, whether it's electrical, computer engineering, industrial, and many other departments. We get a pretty broad group of students in that course. Usually it's a very large class. I'm actually also teaching it in spring, where I'm expecting maybe 160 students or so, 140. This summer event will be very different. So we are somewhere around 20 to 24 students. So it will be much more personal environment where we can actually interact a lot more directly with each other. And that's really not happening with a large class unless you come to the office hour regularly. We also augment this course with some lectures by local speakers. So I have some friends there at the university in Lausanne, and they have given us tours of their labs, or they come in and give some lectures. We also had a guest speaker who talked a little bit about history of Switzerland and sort of unique events that have sort of shaped the country. The entire course is usually 10 weeks long, and we're doing it in 4 weeks in the summer. So it's pretty intense, but you won't really do any other courses at the same time. So it is manageable, and there is free time, even though we usually have lectures in the morning and then maybe some review and some homework in the afternoon or some lab sessions. The prerequisites are usually the same. So there's some math and some physics. If you can show that you've maybe taken something equivalent, then we can talk about that, but this is usually the prerequisite. Okay, and yeah, maybe I should say a few words about the pictures too. So this is from one of our excursions from last time. We went actually to the particle accelerator in Geneva, and everybody was wearing a hard hat and went, I don't know, 20 stories down into the ground to that huge tunnel. So it was a pretty exciting, interesting event to see this huge installation for research. Okay, and feel free to interrupt. So we're a small group here today. So moving on. Next slide. Yeah. So yeah, already mentioned we will be in Switzerland. Obviously, this is Lausanne in the lower left corner here of Switzerland. So the southwestern part. Just to the south of Lausanne is Lake Geneva. You can see that here in the picture. So the campus, which you also see in the picture, is very close to the lake. On the other side is France. There is actually Evian, the famous place where bottled water is coming from. What you also see here in the front is the Rolex Center, which is a little bit sort of like the hub at UW, but it was partially at least donated by Rolex, by the Swiss watch company, and it's a very unique design here. So it's actually intentionally designed so that it resembles a slice of Swiss cheese. So this sort of square structure in the center with these holes in it. There's this sort of library and a cafeteria and some other sort of social spaces for the campus. So it's a pretty unique space that Rolex has at least partially paid. And then the engineering building is a little bit more towards the left lower corner of the picture. But yeah, beautiful location on the banks of Lake Geneva. Big mountains, actually the highest mountain of the Alps is just across the lake with Mont Blanc. Now Switzerland is a small place. They have two really world-class universities. One of them is in Zurich. Maybe you've heard about that, ETH Zurich. The other one is EPFL, which stands basically for Polytechnic University. That's mostly geared towards engineering. It's in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, so the left western part. Obviously, it borders to France. French is spoken usually in town, in the restaurants, but actually most people speak pretty good English there on campus. A lot of the instruction is in English, so you will not have any problem if you don't speak French. Of course, in Switzerland, if you go a little bit further north, German is also spoken, and you will probably also hear German quite a bit in Lausanne. All right, moving on. So housing, we are still working on that, and there are a couple of different options. Actually, let's see, Lausanne is the location of, the Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, and there were also several events in the past, so we could use, for example, the housing for the Paralympic Games that happened there a few years ago. But there are also other student housing options, and we're working on that right now. So the goal is to have you very close so that you can walk to the campus and to the lectures. The campus is a little bit out of town. There is a light rail that connects you. It's maybe 5-6 stops to get to the center of the town. So very easy. And last time we had basically a monthly pass, so you could just hop on the train to go back and forth. All right. Maybe I should just say, so the goal is that everybody has their own room, but maybe a shared kitchen and shared bathroom possibly, or maybe two bathrooms for 4 people or something like that. So we'll see exactly how this will work out. So what's the schedule? So the plan is that students arrive on the weekend on August the 20th and depart 4 weeks later on September 16. Of course, you can travel earlier or leave later if you want to travel by yourself, and a lot of students last time did that, so it's a great opportunity to maybe explore Italy, France, Germany, the Alps, the Mediterranean, and so these are all pretty close and very easy to reach by train. The schedule itself is that I usually give 2 hours of lectures in the morning. We start at 9 until 11. Then we do some quiz sections, some review with a TA, and you have time for some homeworks, and you get these lab kits. So you'll build some circuits for the course as well. And usually you do that as a team, and there would be a TA, and I would also usually be around to help with that. We have one midterm. I don't think that's written here, but yeah, we usually have one midterm and one final exam. And then weekly assignments as well. So yeah, there's quite a bit to do, but that's because we compressed the entire course into 1 month instead of 10 weeks. We do excursions on Saturdays. So there's some things planned. I already mentioned going to Geneva to the particle accelerator. Last time we did a trip to some other places as well. I think there is a separate slide on that in a minute. One weekend we actually want to go to Zermatt. I don't know, have you heard about Zermatt? So this is a beautiful mountain town, a mountain village. You can only reach it by train, so they don't let cars drive there. There's actually not much of a road. So you hop on a train and get up there. It's at about 5,000 feet elevation, and then we'll do some hiking. We'll take the tram up to the peak of the mountains, and that's where the picture that I showed at the beginning was taken. So you can take the tram up all the way to about 3,880 meters elevation or so. So pretty spectacular scenery if the weather is decent. So that would be the only full weekend. So we would leave on Friday afternoon and then stay 2 nights in Zermatt. Last time we had a nice youth hostel, and then we come back on Sunday night. It's yeah, you take the train. It's about 2.5 hours to get there. You're going up the Rhone Valley. All right, next slide. Yeah, Zermatt, I was just talking about it. There's another nice picture with the famous Matterhorn mountain in the back. So very famous, iconic shape that you see on a lot of pictures all over the place. In Geneva, I mentioned the Large Hadron Collider, where actually the University of Washington has contributed to that. I would think probably every top university has some part in this huge project. So we provided some sensors for the system. I think it came out of the applied physics lab here on our campus. So these are 2 of the excursions, and 2 more. We plan a cruise on Lake Geneva. There are actually boats that basically go sort of around in a circle and make stops in different places. And one particular stop is at Chateau Chillon. This is a medieval castle that's built right there on the lake. And you've probably seen these pictures. They're very popular pictures for calendars and well, other tourist pictures. So a nice stop with the boat. The boat stops right there around pretty much where the picture was taken. And we get a tour of the medieval castle. Lavaux is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's actually right outside of Lausanne. You can pretty much walk there, but these are vineyards that have been in use since Roman times. They're very steep hills that are south-facing towards the lake, so there's a very unique climate, and people have been growing wine there a lot. It's difficult to get that wine here in the US. It's, I think, quite expensive, and they don't export much. They drink it all themselves. But we can do some wine tasting there, and we took a little tram up and into the vineyard. So it's a very pretty place to look down onto the lake and see the old vineyards and the old buildings up there in the hills. Okay. Yeah, a couple more tours. So right in town, there is the Olympic Museum. So you get the whole history of the foundation of the modern Olympic movement, and then also all sorts of memorabilia that you can look at from different Olympic Games. So that's a nice thing to see for an hour or 2. And then the last one here on the list is Broc and Gruyère. So this is also not very far away, 2 towns, maybe about an hour drive by bus. One of them is a cheese factory, so they show you how to make Swiss cheese, and you can sample some of that. The other one is a chocolate factory, and they're called Caillé, not so famous in the US, but it's a very nice chocolate brand, mostly sold in Switzerland and Europe. And they have a little museum and some exhibitions, and then you can actually go in there and make your own chocolate. So they give you the ingredients, and they bring in some chocolate chef that tells you how to do it, and you can then prepare your chocolate and put it into a mold and then take it home afterwards. So last time I ate way too much chocolate when I was at this place, but that was very good. Okay. Do I have anything else? Do we switch to Corin? Yep. Or maybe Anna, do you have any questions so far? Good. All right.
Okay. Yep, I can go from here. So we'll talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of the program. So right up top, the program fee is $5,500. That includes instruction, housing, and program activities and travel. So included in this number is your tuition for those credits that you'll be earning. Not included in this program fee is a study abroad fee, the airfare, your food while you're there, and then a couple of other expenses such as this UW study abroad insurance, which is required by the university. It is not terribly expensive, but just want you to know that you will be required to purchase that for any study abroad program, but that will also apply here. And then as well as any money that you want to spend on anything while you are in the country. And then kind of on that same topic of finances here, I wanted to give you some information about financial aid for programs such as this. So when you do an early fall start program like this, your fall financial aid will include this program. So anything that goes on that financial aid bill will be on your fall tuition bill. And that also goes for the credits you'll be earning will also apply to the fall quarter. There are scholarships available through the Study Abroad Office up to $2,500. As noted here, that does require that you have FAFSA on file. And then when you are doing your application, you must check the box on there to be eligible for these, and it will automatically make you eligible. Those scholarships are given out on a need basis, and just a note that if you are Pell eligible, you are guaranteed the max amount of that you'll at max $2,500. And then one other thing that I wanted to mention here was the study abroad revision request form, which is something that you can submit to through the study abroad office that raises your limit of financial aid if that is a concern, specifically for a study abroad program. And while we're here, I also is going to drop a couple of things in the chat. And if you're watching this recorded later on, please feel free to email me about these. But there is currently the Gilman Scholarship has just opened. And so I will, sorry about the long link, drop that in there. And that is a scholarship that would apply to this program. It's currently open right now for application. So I highly recommend that you check that out. And then also, at UW, we have something that's called the Office of Merit Scholarships. And I would highly recommend that you go around on that website and see what opportunities might apply to you. So I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of those opportunities for potential funding for study abroad programs. And then Carl already kind of talked a little bit about the schedule of the program, but I wanted to go through the first week so you would know basically exactly what it would look like when you arrive on this program in Switzerland. So Sunday, August 20th, or prior to that, if you decide to travel earlier, we will arrive in Geneva and then travel to Lausanne and check into our housing. So that first day is our first opportunity to check into the housing. So if you travel earlier, just know that any housing will be, you will be responsible for that. And then there will be an optional group event in that evening, you know, just something to check in with everybody, make sure that everybody has arrived okay and there were no problems. And then, so then we'll move on to the week, kind of as Carl said. You can see during the mornings, there's the 9 to 11 a.m. lecture. That first Monday, we'll have a group orientation that will kind of go over the program again and talk about, you know, any concerns that people might have, you know, general things. We can talk about living in a French-speaking city, talk about money, cell phones, all of these things we will go over at the orientation. And then a city tour that afternoon so that people can get acquainted with where we're at. And then you can see the next day would be lecture and then a quiz section in the afternoon. And then we would have our first group dinner. And there will be a number of group dinners throughout the program, which is a great opportunity for us to all check in with each other and see how everybody is feeling and help build community. Then that Wednesday, we'll have that lecture section again in the morning, and then we'll have guests coming in to give us an introduction to Switzerland, kind of as Carl mentioned. You know, I would expect something to be, you know, about Swiss culture, Swiss engineering that he's talked about before. And then that Thursday, again, lecture and quiz, and then you have that free afternoon and evening. Friday would be lecture, and then in the afternoon, the Olympic Museum group tour. And again, you can see you would have that afternoon and evening off after that tour ended. And then Saturday would be our first excursion. So you can see sort of just the general rundown there. Probably leave sort of in the late morning, head down to Geneva, spend approximately 4 hours at CERN, getting a tour speaking to the engineers and scientists there, and then return in the evening. And then, as we said, your Sundays are free days, so that would be an opportunity for you to go out and explore the city on your own or with a group if you would like to do that. And then just answering some sort of general study abroad questions. Is it safe to study abroad? So particularly for this program, Switzerland is very safe. So we don't have any concerns around that, but we always want to be careful. Anytime that we're traveling, anytime that we're living in an unfamiliar place, we want to make sure that we're all taking the proper precautions to keep ourselves safe. And then on top of that, there are some things that UW offers. So there is a global travel security management program, and there is a global security officer as part of that that we work with to ensure that all of the places our programs are going are safe, and they help us. If anything were to come up while you were on a program, that officer would provide support to us. And then also, as I mentioned, there is that study abroad insurance, which would cover medical, natural disaster, political evacuation, and a handful of other things. Again, things that we don't anticipate coming up, but just want to make sure that everybody is covered in the event that they do. Obviously, in the last few years, there has been an elephant in the room around health and safety, which is COVID. And we definitely want to be as safe as we possibly can and make sure that we are taking the precautions to ensure that that as few people end up having COVID on our trip as possible. The sad reality is that it does happen. This picture is of me in Copenhagen on vacation getting COVID, and it's not fun. So we definitely want to avoid that for as many people as we can. I would say nothing is required at this point outside of what UW requires, but we would encourage masking and distance where it's appropriate. And let's see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so kind of just going down this, we'll do our best to stay safe and stay healthy. Obviously, there is a small chance that there's another variant that comes out that kind of throws the world back into chaos. If that is the case, any fees that you have paid will be refunded as long as it is prior to going on the program. The one tricky thing with COVID and studying abroad is that if you catch it and have to stay, say you catch it the last day that you are in Switzerland and then you end up having to stay longer, UW cannot cover those days. So just want to make sure that you are aware that any additional stay will be on you. And then I just kind of wanted to answer some common questions about studying abroad. So do a little bit of myth busting here. Feel free to stop me at any point if you have any questions about these. But so a common myth about study abroad is that it can delay your graduation. And the reason it's a myth is because early fall start, a program like this can actually help you get ahead. It gives you a jump. It's 5 credits that you're getting before the fall quarter even starts. So you can either take a regular load in fall and get more credits than you normally would have, or if you want, this can give you the opportunity to maybe have a little bit more of a relaxed fall if you would prefer that. And the second myth is that study abroad isn't for engineers. I think a lot of people in engineering hear this. I know there are a lot of very strict timelines for graduating, a lot of requirements. But the truth is that a lot of engineering students do go abroad. And there are a ton of programs for engineers, and I think it is super valuable. In any discipline, I think it's really valuable to go abroad and see how things are done in another part of the world. But especially, I think in engineering, that's very, very interesting. And as it says here, I think lots of people report that study abroad was one of the most important things that they did during their undergraduate careers. And I think just sort of in general, when talking to people, I think nobody looks back on their undergrad and says that they regret, spending a month in Switzerland or in England or in Rome. So that's definitely, I think if there is a regret, it's often that people didn't do this. They didn't take the time. And then the third one on here is that this is a time to slack off and party with friends in a different country. And while I think study abroad is definitely fun, but as Carl mentioned before, this is definitely it's a month-long program of what is normally a 10-week course. So we do have high expectations that people in this program will be committed to the academic portion of it. Yeah, so I think it will definitely require some discipline and focus, but we will definitely also have fun. And I think meeting new people abroad and building a new community is always super fun experience. So just a few more here. The myth is that only juniors and seniors can study abroad. This is not true. As we mentioned before, anyone that has the prerequisites is eligible to come on this program, regardless of what your class standing is. And as Carl mentioned, if you have a background in some areas and maybe you don't have the specific prereq that we have listed, but can make a case for why you think that you would be successful in the program, we're always happy to talk to you about that. Another myth is that because this is EE 215, this program is only for electrical engineers. That is, of course, not true either. Students of all backgrounds are welcome to join us on this program. Obviously, we do require those prereq classes, so you do need some knowledge before taking this class. And also the EE 215 is a core course in a number of different majors. And we haven't really talked about that, but there really aren't very many study abroad programs or early fall programs that offer core credits. So for the handful of majors that EE 215 is a core course, this is an awesome opportunity to take advantage of that shortened timeline, the smaller class, and increased access to the professor and TA. So I think it's a really pretty unique opportunity in that way. And then the last myth is that it's scary to go on study abroads alone because you will be in a foreign country, perhaps for the first time, or perhaps for the first time living away from family and friends. But something that we are going to try really hard to do is to build a community on this program so that the people that you meet before you go and while you're there become your new friends, and that you can build a strong community, and that'll help you enjoy your time there, and will make you definitely not regret coming on the program. So moving on, what is next? The application would be next. So the applications for this program are now open, and they are due on February 15th, 2023. The application is short. It's just 3 quick questions, and then we ask for a recommendation from one of the faculty that you currently work with. And we're looking for somebody specifically that can vouch for your, I guess, maybe academic readiness, somebody that you can put down as a reference that says that you will be successful in this program. And then there are a few documents to sign beyond that. As I mentioned before, when you're doing that application, please be sure to check the box that says that you would like to be considered for the study abroad scholarships, because again, you must check that box. If you don't, you will not be considered for those. So very important. And then after the application has closed, we will be considering the applicants and be making selections based on that. So as Carl mentioned, this program, we're looking at somewhere between 20 to 24 students to run this program. If we receive more applications than that, we will review all of the applications and make decisions based on who we think will be most successful in this program. If we have fewer applications than that, it could be possible to run the program of maybe 18 or 19. So we will definitely just keep you all informed as we move along in that process, and we'll hopefully be letting folks know in early or mid-March. And then, as it says, you will be asked to confirm your spot on the program at the start of the spring quarter, which will be early April. Yeah. So if you are selected to go on the program and you confirm your spot, the next step will be a series of orientations that we will hold in the spring quarter to get the group prepared to go abroad. As you can see here, we will be talking about kind of group expectations and community building, sort of what I had talked about before, making sure that everybody is feeling comfortable with going abroad and is ready, and we're putting everyone in the best position to succeed on this program. And then also, sort of the general things for folks, logistics, packing lists, some course preparation things. And then we'll also be doing sort of a cultural piece. So trying to introduce the group to Swiss culture and history before we go on the trip, so that maybe we have a little more context when we land there. And also any health guidelines that may be changing as we proceed through. All right, and that kind of brings us to the end. So we have an opportunity for a little bit of Q&A if you would like. You can see here, this is my email, this corin@uw.edu. You're always welcome to reach out to me with any questions that you have if you don't have any right now. And then these QR codes that you can see here, this one in the top right is an online interest form that I would encourage you to fill out and submit, and that will give me your email, and I will reach out and send you a reminder the week prior to the application being due, and then maybe like the day before too, just to help people not forget. And the other one, this is our program website here that we have put together. On this page is a link to the study abroad application page. You can also Google like UW Engineering Study Abroad and find our program to apply to it. But definitely encourage you to check that out. There is similar information that we've talked about today, but might have a little bit more on like the academic piece. If you're interested in that, I would definitely explore this website more. And with that, I will go ahead and let you ask any questions that you've got, if you have any.
I think I have a little bit. Just to clarify, so the program will end September 16th, as in our last night that would be covered would be from the 15th to the 16th.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then about questions about getting ready for the class. Would you guys recommend having like a really strong like background in like 122? Like, would you not recommend it for somebody that may or may not be succeeding in 122? Like how would that affect, or is there still like office hours and resources as if we were in UW being over there?
Yeah, I think I can say a few words, even though I haven't looked at the curriculum for 122 in a long time, so I need a refresher exactly what the content there is. But I can tell you in general what we're sort of expecting. So I think if there's a basic understanding of the physical concepts, so what is a resistor, a capacitor, an inductor, so this is usually covered in some basic physics classes. That's useful for the math. I think some calculus is useful. I actually think that the prerequisites are maybe more extensive than it really is necessary, because, I mean, for example, we have some differential equations in the class, but we never really solve them, and we basically give the solutions already. So that's in a way already pre-packaged. But some calculus will definitely be useful. For example, there may be an equation where you, like a quadratic equation or some other polynomial where you want to find out, okay, what is the maximum, what's the minimum? So can you take a derivative and do some sort of basic analysis of, the mathematical models that we use. I don't know, does that answer your question more or less, or? Okay, I mean, we could also turn off the recording at this point if we want to do some more Q&A.